Welcome to the next episode of the Psychology Mastery series, a series where I take you through the steps from 1 to 100 on mastering your mindset and mastering your mind in trading. This is episode number 4. We're going to be talking about greed. I'm not going to waste a single second in this video. Let's get straight into the stuff. We're going to be talking about what is greed, why greed management is important, the science behind greed, acknowledging greed in your trading. So how do you know if you're actually being greedy? And then finally, steps you can take to help manage greed in your trading. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, I would highly recommend you go back. In episode 1, we talked about accountability, which is knowing what to change. In episode 2, we talked about discipline, which is how to change. In episode 3, we talked about fear, which is something that breaks discipline. And now we're going to talk basically about the twin brother of fear, which is greed. If fear makes you avoid risk, greed makes you overexpose yourself to risk. So greed is a silent killer of consistency and discipline. Let's get into the video. So, first things first. Why are we talking about greed? And why does greed have its own video? It's because greed leads to taking trades that don't meet the criteria just in case they happen to pan out. Oversizing positions after a win. Holding winners for too long, trying to catch the best take profit level. Revenge trading to make back losses quickly. Ignoring risk because this setup is too good to fail, or this is such a good setup that you just ignore your risk management skills. Greed feels good in the moment. It's fueled by excitement, overconfidence, and the desire for more. However, greed pushes you out of the process and pushes you into self-sabotage. It will literally show up when you least expect it, maybe after a winning streak, when your confidence is high, when you start to believe you're invincible, when you forget that trading is all about probabilities, when you forget about everything else. This is why greed is so important. You need to be able to manage your greed, okay? Now, let's move this and let's focus on this right here, which is the science of greed. Dopamine and reward pathways. Greed is rooted in dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. When you feel that sensation, that is dopamine. When you win, dopamine spikes, reinforcing the behavior that led to the win. Let's take that into consideration, what I just said. When you win, dopamine spikes, reinforcing the behavior that led to the win. It's as simple as that analogy with the dog that gets a treat. Every time the dog does something, it gets a treat, reinforcing the idea that the dog should do that for a treat. This is why you need to think about probabilities. Now, we're going to get into that later on in the series. Let's focus on greed for now. The problem is dopamine does not care if the behavior was disciplined or reckless. It simply rewards the winning feeling. So you may have saw a winning trade, but if you are greedy, or if you pass an account because you risk too much, you're reinforcing that behavior in your brain. And you feel that dopamine spike, and you're going to want to feel it again and again, and it's only going to get worse and worse until you can finally break the cycle, which we'll talk about in the video, and you can finally start managing your greed. So dopamine does not even spike when you win. Maybe dopamine spikes when you have good discipline. So not only can you stop dopamine spiking when you win recklessly, but you can promote dopamine to spike when you trade properly. Not because you won the trade, but because you traded the way you were supposed to. That is why people repeat bad habits after lucky trades. You know it, I know it, everyone does it. If you pass an account by doing something you weren't supposed to do, you will do it again, right? You will. It's the truth of the matter is you will do it again, even though you know it's not the thing you're supposed to be doing. Greed is literally your brain chasing the next dopamine hit. This is not rational decision making. So hopefully you guys understand the science about it. Now, how do you know as a trader if you are trading with greed? I'm going to tell you right now. These are good signs. Number 1, adding to winners impulsively without a rule. Don't just click add because you feel like it. Now, yes, intuition plays a role in trading, but so does greed. So you better be drawing a fine line between intuition and greed. Holding past your target because it could go higher. I am going to give you the number 1 example that you are trading with greed. This is something that I see repeat. And if you made it this far in the video, please leave a comment below if you do this in your trading. you have a trade and you have a target that you think is going to be met. However, instead of aiming for that target or taking a partial or doing something at that target, you aim for more to pass an account or to make a payout or to make a winning day or to maybe end green on the day. Yeah, that's greed. You are being greedy. You are wanting more, you're chasing more, even though you're not supposed to. This is not rational thinking. So if you have ever increased your take profit because you want to make more money, and all of a sudden you start coping and you start rationalizing, oh yeah, it could go higher, oh it could maybe go. Let's put the greed aside and let's do what's actually best for our trading right now. Forget the previous losses, forget the previous wins, forget how much you're gonna make. Do what makes most sense in this trade. Do what your system tells you to do. Taking extra trades after a big winning day just to capitalize on momentum. Now, confidence can be really beneficial, and so can win streaks. But again, you need to draw a fine line between greed and confidence. I like trading after I win, but I have to make sure that I am not simply being greedy, because I know that there is a probability in play here. Breaking risk rules right after a profit. If you risk more than you're supposed to, you are simply greeding. You are greeding. If you risk more than you told yourself you were going to risk, you are being a greedy trader. And that will kill you down the long run. Because if you win when you happen to risk more, the dopamine's going to spike and you're going to want to do it again. And you're going to want to do it again. And you're going to do it again. And that behavior leads to blow up. Setting unrealistic goals. This is also a form of greed. If you say, I need to pass my account next 2 days. Yeah, you're going to be greedy. You're greedy. You got the account trying to pass in 1 month, or you got the account in the hopes that you can maybe get a payout, and now you're being greedy with it. So you need to set realistic goals for yourself so you're not being greedy. Now, we understand what greed is. We understand the science behind greed, and we understand how you can identify if you are greedy and need to manage your greed. Now, we can talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about how we can manage greed. So, if you struggle with greed, these are things that you can implement right now, today, to help manage this greed that seems to be taking over. Number 1, set profit targets and respect them. Now, obviously, respect, that comes with discipline, but we already talked about that. If you have set profit targets, then you can't be greedy. Very simple. Pre-plan, take profit levels. Like I said before, if you plan ahead of time where you're going to be taking profits, and you have the discipline, which we talked about in episode 2, you can't be greedy. 2 very simple things. Now, I'm going to set a bracket here, and I'm going to say detach from profits and loss. This is the most important part. So I'm going to, I don't know if I can bold it or put an underline. I don't know what I just did, but put a profit or loss in your mind, take it in the garbage, and throw it away. Because you do not need to be focusing on profit and loss. You need to be focusing on proper executions. Executions over profit and loss. And I'll tell you why this one thing will improve your trading enormously. Once you can finally detach from being up or down on the day, you will finally be trading without fear and without greed. And if you trade without fear and greed, you can finally be disciplined. And it's really that simple. If you truly did not care about the profit and loss on the day, you would never be greedy and you would never have fear. For example, do you ever get greedy when you're trading demo? Maybe you do something that shows you're being greedy, but you're not really being greedy, you just don't care. If you can detach from the profit and loss, that way, when something happens in a trade, and this is my favorite quote when it comes to greed, or my favorite saying, if you get happy when you win, then you will get sad naturally when you lose. And if you are getting happy when you win and sad when you lose, that cycle is going to repeat. Every time you win, dopamine's going to spike. Every time you lose, dopamine's going to go down, and the other one's going to come in. And you're just going to be on this cycle of emotional trading. And you're never going to be in control because the emotions are going to take over. And what do we know about when emotions take over? You do not make rational decisions. Isn't it funny how when you first go into the charts, you're always focused, you're locked in, everything's good. No one tilts on their first trade. I mean, before they first take their first trade. Then you take your first trade, you win or lose, and then the emotions start coming in. Yeah, that's not random. That's dopamine. That's the chemicals in your brain releasing, giving you the emotions. And of course, once the emotions take over, you lose rational thinking. If you lose rational thinking, you cannot be a successful, consistent trader because emotions are unpredictable. Number 4, something you can do to help. And actually, before I say number 4, don't stare at the account balance. It's something you can do. Focus on executions, not dollar signs. Focus on the candles, not the green or whatever, green/red. So those are little things that you can do that I had in my notes. Number 4, the next thing you can do, and this is when we're talking about the science, neutralize dopamine spikes. Now, what does that mean? After a big win, walk away. Don't look at the charts. Close it, in fact, and walk away. So what does this do? This is basically building the repetition that, okay, I just did something great, and you're not really giving yourself that reward of doing that. You're trying to neutralize the dopamine by having that sort of control over the emotional response. Does that make sense? If you, for example, make a certain winning trade and the dopamine does not spike, well, then you cannot get greedy because you'll be making rational decisions. But once the dopamine spikes, you get greedy, you make irrational decisions. Neutralize the dopamine, neutralize the greed. Something else you can do, create a cool down ritual. So this can be before, during, or after a trade. So remember, if you're struggling with this is something you can actually do. Maybe you want to meditate before you trade. Maybe once you take a trade, you're just going to sit back, close your eyes, put your hands together, and just... If that's something you have to do it. Drop your ego. We're all chasing the same thing. It's you versus you. If that's something you have to do it. If you feel the emotions coming up, you feel greedy, you feel like you can't make a rational decision, you can implement a ritual. Something very simple. Number 5, structured scaling rules. Set rules for adding contracts. Set rules for profits, stop losses, etc., etc., etc. If you have rules in place and you have the discipline to follow them, then you don't have to worry about greed in that aspect of trading. You're not going to add when you're not supposed to. You're not going to let the trade keep going when you're not supposed to. So if you have rules on that stuff, there you go. You know exactly what to do. It's a pretty straightforward, simple one. Shift from more to better mindset. More does not mean better. Ask, did I follow process? Not, did I make money? Journal, did I do the right things? Not, did I end green? Reward yourself for disciplinary trading. Do not reward yourself for undisciplined trading. So if you take a win that's really large, that's great. If you over risked for that win, do not reward yourself. Do not be posting it on social media, flexing. I took this trade 20 RR, but you took 11 trades before that. You blew them and you broke your rules. Do not dare reward yourself for that trading because that was not good trading. You need to take accountability. Watch episode number 1. You need to be disciplined. Watch episode number 2. You do not reward yourself for undisciplinary trading. You do not. Because every time you reward yourself, you know damn well what you're going to do. So if you take a win and you know damn well that you broke rules or you over leveraged or you did something that you were not supposed to do, maybe it's not even a model that you know and you just clicked by and it went, and you post it on social media, you are rewarding yourself for poor actions, and your mind will seek the same thing again. These are things that you can implement right now to help manage your greed. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about in this video, and that's common mistakes when it comes to greed. I have 4 common mistakes when it comes to greed. Number 1, turning one day that was done into blow up by overtrading. This is greed. This is nothing besides greed taking over and lack of discipline. This is nothing besides greed taking over. If you had a day where you were done trading, you took your morning trade, you're done. You know, you're up on the day, you're done. You know what? Maybe you took a trade, you were $100 from passing or $200 from passing, but you took your trade and you're done. And then you overtrade and you blow up. That's a tough one. It's happened to me. I know it's happened to you. And that's a tough one. That is greed. That is greed. You are wanting more when your model and system does not say you should be aiming for more. That is greed. So if this ever happened to you, try potentially implementing some of those things that we talked about. Number 2 common mistake. Doubling risk after loss or win. This might be the most silly thing I have ever seen anyone do. If you double your risk after you lose or win, I do not know what to tell you because you're trying to make it back, right? And I understand you, but that might be the dumbest thing that you could possibly do as a trader. There has been no successful trader who increases their risk throughout time and ends profitable. All you do is increase the chance of blow up, and that's it. Remember, we talked about this in previous videos. When you risk on a trade, you're also risking mental capital. So you can only trade and risk so much money before you lose it mentally. If you have $1,000 and you risk 500 and lose it, you are going to crash out. You just lost half of your bankroll. Of course you are going to crash out. Anyone in any human trader who is a good trader, pro trader, brand new, anyone, if they lose half their account, they are going to crash out. They are not going to be sane because they just lost an enormous amount of money. So you have to keep in mind that sure, maybe they are feeling okay in terms of the trade, but their mental capital has went down. So you have to always keep that in mind. Number 3, this one's a killer. Moving targets further and further instead of taking profits. This one's funny. I mean, this one, come on. If you've been in a trade and you're like, it's going in your favor, you're like, you know what? Let me aim for here now. Or maybe you'll go all the way up here. Yeah, you're being greedy. You know, this should be something that is planned beforehand. Yes, obviously you get feedback when you're in a trade and you can make decisions like this. But like I said, there is a fine line, a very, very fine line between intuition and greed. And you better be damn sure that you are acting on logic and not emotion. Because if you are acting on emotion, like we said, you're going to go through that cycle of dopamine spike. You're going to reward yourself, and it's only going to get worse. It's all going to come back to get you later. Focus on execution and process. And finally, the last most common mistake, success in dollars, not in quality of trading. This is the most beginner mistake. Beginner mistake. Because I know people, I lost $1,000. What should I do? Frowny face. What? What are you frowning about? Did you expect to never lose? Do you expect to only win? You do not have the right mindset to be a trader if you are measuring your success in dollars, not in quality of trading. The best trade, don't take it from me. Take it from the best traders to ever do it. They would all agree, and a lot of them have said word for word or paraphrased. You have to not let the dollar outcome of a trade or month determine whether or not you traded well. Because I can do everything right one month and lose, and the next month I do everything right and win. I just happened to lose this month. The next month I did the same thing and I won. So many people in my chat when I'm live trading, I'll take a protraction model and I'll lose, and they'll be like, damn, like maybe you should have done this, maybe you should have done. No, this is the same trade that we won 2 days ago. It's the same consistent trade. Sometimes it loses, sometimes it wins. Yes, every trade has a different factor. There are no two similar trades in the trading. But when you have a model, you stick to it. You cannot beat yourself down when the model loses and then reward yourself every time it wins. That does not make sense. If I take a trade and I lose, and all of a sudden everyone in chat is like, man, bad trade, you should have done this, you should have done that. And then a couple days later, I take another protraction model. It plays out, wow, man, great trade, W's in the chat. It was the same trade I took when we lost. We just lost that time, and that's a part of trading. So this is how I know a lot of people, maybe mentally, are calculating their success based on whether they win or lose the trade. That is not it, because the same trades that I lose are the exact same trades that I win. Obviously, not two trades are the exact same, but you get the idea. It's the same model, it's the same concept, It was the same conviction on most of them. And that's the idea. The same trades that you lose are the same trades that you win. You cannot measure the success in win or lose. That is all I have for today. Till next time, peace.